Hey guys, welcome to Flow Academy AP Psychology class. Last class we talked about the first two waves, introspection and Gestalt psychology. So first of all, let us review what we introduced last week. Introspection can be divided into two schools, structuralism and functionalism. The founders of structuralism and functionalism are Wilhelm Wundt and William James. Wundt emphasized units of consciousness and identification of elements of thought. In contrast, James assumed that thinking developed because it was adaptive, it served some purpose. This wave uses the techniques of introspection, which interviews with the subject describing his or her feelings or conscious reactions to simple stimuli and identify commonalities. However, it is too subjective. Yes, it is too subjective. The second wave is Gestalt psychology. Max Wertheimer is the founder of this wave, and he focuses on a person's total experience rather than units of consciousnness. If you forget some of these, you should look at our previous videos again and review it. All in all, let us begin today's learning. In this video, I will talk about wave 3, psychoanalysis. The founder of psychoanalysis is Sigmund Freud. He contends that the unconscious mind, which is a part of our mind over which we don't have conscious control, determines partly how we think and behave. He uses lots of techniques such as stream analysis, free association, and projections. Regarding to him, human personality is complicated and composed of several parts. In his famous psychoanalytic theory, Freud reckons that personality is composed of three elements, known as id. It is not pronounced as id, it is id, ego, and the superego. These elements work together to create complex human behaviors. Let me explain to you what id, ego, and superego is in a much more detailed way. The first aspect of personality id is entirely unconscious and includes instinctive behaviors. It is a reservoir of unconscious psychiatric energy that, according to Freud, strives to satisfy basic sexual and aggressive drives. The id operates on the pleasure principle, demanding immediate gratification. If these needs are not satisfied immediately, the result is a state of anxiety or tension. For example, if the infant is not given food immediately when he is angry, he will just cry, like this, cry very loudly. And the second one is ego. Ego develops from id and ensures that the impulses of the id can be expressed in a manner acceptable in the real world. The ego operates on reality principle. Id's impulse can be satisfied through a process called delayed gratification, which means the ego will eventually allow the behavior, but only in an appropriate time and place. Like, you need to finish your homework, but you also want to play your phone and have fun. Therefore, your ego will tell you to first finish your homework and then you can play your phone during the rest or after you complete the assignment. The last component of personality to develop is the superego. The superego holds the internalized ideals that we acquire from our parents and society, like our sense of right and wrong. And also, it provides moral standards and judgment and future aspirations. For example, I once saw 1 yuan on the ground. My id tells me to pick it up and then spend it, but my superego tells me to give it to the policeman. Finally, my ego decides to just leave it there. The superego demands often opposed to id's. As you can see, the ego struggles to reconcile these two. Therefore, conflicts are usually caused by the balance of the ego and superego. It is the personality executive, mediating among the impulsive demands of eight, the restraining demands of the superego, and the real life demands from the external world. A conscious and preconscious and unconscious level of their minds. As you can see on the picture, the largest part is the unconscious mind. Also, it is in the hidden or repressed part. This is shown in the picture above as it below the water. This is the mass of unacceptable passions and thoughts we repress, but it influences us the most based on the fraud. Eight is fully unconscious, as you can see. Part of ego and superego is unconscious. The middle section there is called preconscious or subconscious, and this is the part that we sometimes acknowledge by the brain and other times it's not. In the picture above, this is shown by it. In the picture above, this is shown by its being right water level, or bobbing up and down above and below the waterline. Some of these thoughts we store temporarily in this area, from which we can retrieve them later into conscious awareness. The final part is the conscious part. This is the part of our mind that we are aware of on a daily basis and makes most of our decisions and thoughts. Still, Freud said, although this is the only completely visible part, it is still mostly affected and influenced by the unconscious lurking below. Parts of ego and superego is conscious, as you can see. As members of social groups, we must control our sexual and aggressive impulses, not act them out. But sometimes the ego fears losing control of this inner world between the eight and superego. The presumed result is a dark cloud of unfocused anxiety that leaves us feeling unsettled, but unsure why. Freud proposed that the ego protects itself with defense mechanisms, tactics that reduce or redirect anxiety by distorting reality. Defense mechanisms protect our self-understanding. For Freud, all defense mechanisms function indirectly and unconsciously. Just as the body unconsciously defends itself against disease, so also does the ego unconsciously defend itself against its anxiety. I will then introduce you guys some example about defense mechanism. You should remember these since it may be on your AP psychology test. The first one is repression, which banishes anxiety arousing wishes and feelings from consciousness. According to Freud, repression underlies all the other defense mechanisms. For example, Tom was nearly drowned when he was small. He then could develop the fear of water or swimming, but he might not know but he might have no idea where the phobia came from. He just repressed the memory. And the other one is regression. Regression refers to retreating to a more infantile psychosexual stage and behave like a baby. Like a little boy may suck his thumb in a car on the way his first day of school. Reaction formation reduces anxiety and hides their chilling feelings by taking up the opposite feeling, impulse, or behavior. For example, if you dislike someone, you may treat him in an excessively friendly manner in order to hide your true feelings. Projection is a defense mechanism that involves taking our own unacceptable qualities or feelings and ascribing them to other people. For instance, if you dislike for someone, you may think that he does not like you. Next one is rationalization, which means that individuals try to find seemingly logical reasons for something difficult or unacceptable. In other words, they're trying to find excuses. For example, a student who is rejected by his dream school may think that he is more willing to attend to other universities that are less competitive and more relaxing. Displacement involves taking out our frustrations, feelings, and impulses on people or objects that are less threatening. Like if you have conflicts with your coworkers and you do not get the result you want, it may ensue that you will yell at your partner when you go home. Displacement refers to transferring of unacceptable impulses into socially valued motives. For example, someone who is very aggressive may be trained to be a soldier in the future. Denial is a refusal to admit some painful realities. An example may be a partner denies evidence of his love once affair. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoy and thanks for listening.